On Ukraine's eastern front, Mykola lays clutching his stomach, where a Russian 7.62 bullet has bounced off his rifle and penetrated horizontally, mushroomed to the size of a jagged ping-pong ball, severing his large intestine. He's been laying on Ukraine's eastern front for 2 days as internal bleeding swells his stomach, hoping each night the correct conditions will manifest to extract him from the front line, then transfer him to an ambulance, which can finally bring him to a field hospital. Drones have changed the shape of war in Ukraine yet again. They are now the leading cause of death on the battlefield, and have made evacuating those that survive more dangerous than any war in modern history. The no-man's land of World War I now lies not between Ukrainian and Russian lines, but behind them. Mykola's trench is an island of 3 or 4 Ukrainians. Their adjacent trenches, dozens or hundreds of meters apart, are remote as distant planets. The 10 to 20 kilometers behind these trenches, called the Gray Zone, soldiers fear more than the front line. It exists under a blanket of perpetual Russian surveillance. Its atmosphere buzzes with the persistent presence of dozens of armed drones, while mortars, artillery, rockets, and aerial bombs can be unleashed in a moment with deadly accuracy. The Gray Zone can only be escaped from, not survived in. Traversing the Gray Zone, whether bringing new soldiers or supplies onto the front, or evacuating the injured and dead from it, is considered the most dangerous part of this war by all those fighting it. Under ideal conditions, with a good vehicle, and only by night, the chance of any vehicle transiting the zone without being hit is 50% at best. To reduce the danger of transiting the Gray Zone, soldiers now frequently spend nearly a month on isolated frontline outposts without relief. Supplies are dropped from drones and the dead hauled out by ground drones. But the wounded who cannot limp off the front alone must still be evacuated, and at the risk of 2 or 3 more soldiers in their vehicle. Behind Mykola is the field hospital where Vinci Wolves combat medics, volunteers, surgeons, and anesthesiologists wait for whatever casualties may limp, roll, or be carried into the surgery bays. They too are far from safety. Russians hit their previous position with 4 glide bombs a month before, destroying it only days after they abandoned the position. The Da Vinci medics at the field hospital spend their days sleeping and the narrow hours of summer darkness waiting, they hope, for nothing to arrive. They don't wait idle and rarely in vain. While Da Vinci's medical evacuations come with advance warning, allowing the medics to pre-stage their bays for the specific injuries expected, often adjacent units send their injured here with no more warning than the sudden screech of car tires and a shout from the guards. Having survived another night and day with his stomach loosely bandaged, Mykola now faces the most dangerous period, leaving the front through the Gray Zone. If he can walk with internal bleeding, he will stumble alone from his frontline trench at night, potentially for many kilometers, to meet a vehicle waiting at a safer distance. Russian drones will hunt him, and the Ukrainian surveillance drones will guide him from above. If he cannot walk, he must hope a vehicle and its crew can be risked to extract him before he bleeds to death, or dies of infection, and then that he and the crew survive the drive. 20 kilometers away, the Da Vinci medical evacuation team waits on cots, armor by their side, swift land cruisers packed and ready outside, waiting to transport casualties from the Gray Zone to the field hospital. They won't depart until the last moment possible, when they can be sure the armored vehicle transporting Mykola has survived, and their meeting point will only be exposed for the shortest amount of time. When the call comes, the men have a speed polished by practice. Armor glides over the head, then closes to the front. Boots are stepped into and cinched on, rifles on their chests. The meeting point has already been decided. Along the way, they race past their previous field hospital, smashed by bombs. A bit farther, their old base, a civilian home destroyed by drones. The Da Vinci medical evacuation team has efficiency, training, and equipment familiar to anyone who witnessed the golden hour evacuations of Iraq or Afghanistan. when most casualties were delivered to field hospitals by helicopter in an hour or less. This was considered a steady norm from the Vietnam War's 30 minutes or 6 hours in the Korean War. Swift evacuation meant even horrific injuries had high survival rates, and concerns like hypothermia, infection, or tourniquet injuries were relegated from the concerns of a frontline soldier. The mass use of cheap armed drones in Ukraine not only causes a majority of casualties now, but has altered the battlefield dangerous to the point that casualties must survive for days for a chance to be evacuated. When Mykola finally arrives at the field hospital, his injury is 3 days old. The ambulance door slides open to a wheelchair waiting for him. He hesitates, standing. Yes, they insist. In the medical bay reserved for the more grievously injured, Da Vinci medics wait, some manning computers and x-ray machines, 2 more to usher him into a cot. A fatigued uniform is stripped off to reveal a bandage made of a reflective space blanket. Beneath, a protrusion of intestine gleams out. Mykola is standing again while the Da Vinci team x-rays him. The surgeon and Da Vinci medics review the results in real time. He is wheeled into a gleaming surgical suite where 9 doctors, surgeons, and anesthesiologists and nurses are prepping. The anesthesiologist, alone earpod in, administers a series of injections into the IV started by the Da Vinci medics. The lights in his eyes dim under the surgeon's LEDs. His brow unfurls and 5 of the medical staff lay him down, then begin prepping his body for the ordeal to follow. The white flesh of his stomach at first gleamed against the dirt and tan of his arms, now greased with orange-brown antiseptic. Mykola is now unconscious, swollen stomach gleaming. They open his stomach swiftly. There's the sharp smell of digestive acids, copper, almonds, then burning hair. Cauterizing scissors are handed to the surgeon. Smoke wreaths from the wound. With his stomach now open, his intestine is removed and inspected inch by inch. A jagged starburst of a machine gun bullet is prized out. The nurse holds it to the light, goes to discard it along with a length of intestine, hesitates, and places it next to the dirtied surgeon's tools instead. Stomach examined, cleaned and sutured, the doctor begins closing Mykola's stomach. So it's 5:15 and we just spent the last 2 hours watching a man with a gunshot wound in his stomach, a Ukrainian soldier, come in, be assessed, get digital x-rays, and then go into emergency surgery, which took about an hour and a half of them opening him up, going through the entirety of his intestines, finding the bullet which was inside of him, which looked like some kind of 7.62 that had mushroomed significantly, removing the damaged intestine, finding the bullet and bullet fragments, and then basically putting him back together. As it turned out, when he first came in, we thought that he had been injured earlier this morning, and according to the report that came in with him, it was actually the day before. So in about 3 hours, he would have been injured for 3 days. The sun is rising. There is talk of another medevac for 3 soldiers from the 59th Brigade Squale Battalion. Assaulting a Russian position, they took injuries and managed to limp to a Da Vinci position, with a prisoner in tow. Some of the medics wait, some smoke, Others hurry back to sleep. If there's a chance to evacuate them, it won't be until nightfall. The following day, Serhiy Filimonov, the Da Vinci Wolves brigade imposing commander, stands in the depths of a command bunker, weighing the options and the chances of the injured Squale soldiers. There is silence for several seconds. Filimonov knows the risk and loss better than most. The unit's founder, namesake, and his closest childhood friend, Dmitry Kotsaibo, was killed during an evacuation attempt, an inescapable memory to those who knew him. His loss is both upheld as a demonstration of the loyalty the unit is famous for, and its price. Probably they will die, Filimonov says, his voice flat and unflinching. He then says the latest attempted frontline extraction injured 3 Da Vinci soldiers and damaged an armored vehicle. A successful evacuation requires the right conditions: a night with low Russian drone activity, reserve vehicles and men, the applied efforts of Da Vinci's electronic warfare battalion shielding them from drones, a lull in Russian assaults, and ideally, poor weather that limits drone range. Da Vinci's electronic warfare headquarters sits in a damp basement. Komandar, the appropriately nicknamed second-in-command, monitors a bank of screens displaying Russian drone feeds and dozens of jammed frequencies.
Sometimes Russian put their nicknames here, so they know who they fight with. And they follow their public Telegram channels where they show off their results.
What he can't see is the wire-guided fiber-optic drones Russia has adopted recently, a deadly unknown on the Eastern Front. Commander describes their role as, "We are the defense of the attack. Our main mission is to defend the infantry in our zone and to cover the evacuation vehicles. Less drones, both surveillance and armed, work at night. Combined with electronic warfare jamming efforts, the electronic warfare team works to find and create opportunities for evacuation." The evacuation is planned for the evening. The Da Vinci medical team prepares 2 ambulances and a new rendezvous point. Idling onto an empty field, the 2 ambulances wait for the distant rumbling of engines. In the rear compartments, the medics review gear and pre-stage what tools they will likely need. The combined ambulance and armored vehicles make 4 attractive targets for Russian drones and bombs. A distant hum brings everyone to attention. Suddenly it stops, then radio traffic. The Da Vinci crews take to their vehicles again, marching off. Just 300 meters farther, they stop on the edge of a row of houses. A hulking armored vehicle lurches onto the street and a crew member opens the rear hatch. Pale men in splattered uniforms gingerly descend its troop steps. Their rifles and backpacks are gathered up, and they are loaded into the waiting land cruisers. The only color to the men is the dirt and blood on their faces. Arriving at the field hospital, the Squale soldiers have been assessed during the drive. They are ushered one by one into the routine medical bay. Their injuries are light. Lightest of all is perhaps the most worrying. Successive explosions have left one soldier barely cognizant, unable to speak, and uncoordinated. The second soldier's hand lays in bloody bandages, the fingers emerging bubbling from intense burn blisters. The third refuses to sit, and when his trousers are removed, a pool of blood drips from the crotch of his underwear. Painfully stripped away, a neat entry wound reveals itself mid-buttock. In a half hour, the Da Vinci medics have them appraised and bandaged. Wearing ill-fitting donated clothes, the squally soldiers huddle in a corner of the pale-lit waiting room. Shaking out cigarettes, they hesitate, leaving the underground field hospital. The concussed soldier moves to the door. Another pulls him back sharply, then holds him. Each lights up in turn, taking several puffs before one cracks the door and looks to the sky. They step outside into the last of the night's dark, inhale cigarettes, and shuffle inside again. Huddled again in the corner of a waiting room, they discuss the Russian prisoner. They found him stuck in a steep tank trap trench, trying to dig stairs out of its earthen wall to escape. He offered them no resistance, so they pulled him out by his rifle. Just before dawn, a soldier from the 59th Brigade arrives in a silver hatchback. The hospital guard delivers him the armor, weapons, and packs of the injured soldiers, which he loads into the trunk alongside hog-tied Sheshlinov, 36 years old from Penza, Russia. He joined the Russian 30th Motor Rifle Brigade 6 months ago and has been in Ukraine for 3. He describes the rest of his platoon as
То 300, то 200.
Some wounded, some dead.
When asked about his lack of uniform, he replies he was never issued one.
А чего ты без униформы?
Мне не положено.
А почему?
Не знаю.
He wasn't provided the uniform.
Sheshlinov asks, what does Ukraine do with prisoners? The 59th Brigade soldier tells him he will receive 3 meals a day until he is sent home. Hat firmly taped over his face, Sheshlinov is unaware the dawn of the greatest day of his life is beginning to glow through the trees.